Well, the main difference is in my book, The Great Reset, it's really an alternative version of The Great Reset as put by the World Economic Forum. And I include a lot of things that Klaus Schwab and the WEF did not disclose. And I also include a lot of things that potentially I would say they don't know of, and they didn't consider that potentially be risk to humanity. So in my subtitle, I have a different theme, which is how the world's people and the big tech elites can be enslaved by China's CCP or AI. So I listed a lot of different macro and micro throughout the entire world, from the sea, the land, and the sky. I really wanted to publish a book that was neutral to support conservatives and liberals, people who have religions or spiritual practices, but also people who don't, people of all walks of life, thoughts, and races. Because I wanted to paint the greater picture so that we have less conflicts and have a chance to build a better future. And really the reason why I wrote this one again is to prevent the next big disaster to the world's people, or actually reduce it by giving a future dated emerging threat assessment and also giving some solutions as well. So what I hope to do with this book, The Great Reset, that I just published, would be to get support from both sides of, as they call the fence, with both sides of people, because it's really written on behalf of everybody. I don't have a negative thought, or it's not really against anybody. Just want to make sure that the fourth industrial revolution, or the Great Reset, comes in a safer way, and it doesn't hurt people. Well, they want to capitalize on the Great Reset. They want to control the Great Reset. What I term in this book, I called it the Chinese reset as well, the CCP reset. So what they want to do is sort of parasite off it, but in the long term, dominate the world. So the Chinese, they think differently from most other peoples or cultures. They think long term, 10 years, 20 years, 50 years ahead. Because they have the BRI, Belt and Road Initiative, goals, which links China to the Middle East, to Africa, to Europe, and to North America. Well, they hope to connect their 5G towers, 6G towers, and build an entire grid system infrastructure. So in the future, they can mobilize the robots they're making, the drones that they're making with Huawei, Tencent, even Alibaba, and make Face++, and utilize facial recognition, voice recognition, so that not only can they surveil the populace, but if need be, like they do in China, to enforce draconian or tyrannical measures to enslave the population, or even kill people. Well, this is also a digital reset. I recommend everyone get the book because it's only 150 pages, and with pictures. I've interconnected all the major pieces and even some smaller pieces. So whoever wants to spend 4 or 5 hours, it would give you almost everything that's going to happen in the next 5, 10, even 20 years. The digital reset would take what you traditionally, your money is backed with gold, or you have cash at home, and make it digital. So everything is in the cloud, in a sense, or a cryptocurrency. But with that, when you have corporations controlling the money, And then if you have the CCP controlling the money, at any moment, you can impose social credit systems. They don't like your faith. They don't like your family, whatever it may be, or the money can just disappear. There could be also the power grids can go off. Maybe the internet could disappear, at least the interconnectivity with it, right? Not the internet itself, because the internet's always been there. All we did was connect things to it. But if there is a natural disaster, overnight we can go to the Stone Age, and we don't have gold and silver and cash to barter with. So it's really a dangerous thing to go all digital and replace the current system of having money in your hand. Well, there are medical benefits to it. 5G is not made for humans. It's made for machines. So the millimeter waves are quite fast. So it's supposed to power machines, robots, drones. But if there's somebody maybe ill in a battlefield, or maybe they're very far away, that 5G system can connect to a robot arm and empower it to operate on somebody. But also the 5G system and the AI reset, as I call it as well, can increase the abilities of machines to, I wouldn't say replace doctors because they shouldn't, but the algorithms inside them and their AI-powered systems could diagnose a patient in 10 minutes. Well, in comparison to a Western doctor that may take 2 weeks because he has to diagnose, prescribe, diagnose and prescribe and try to figure out what it is. But an AI doctor, which would be maybe a virtual or machine-based AI machine based off deep learning. Deep learning is like something like a child or a person that experiences things. But imagine in a machine that sees things and hears things and has other senses that computes things very fast. So it'll be much smarter, or at least more efficient and faster. So in a medical age, then there's 3D printing for organs and 3D printing for houses, all kind of different things. So I outline in this book, The Great Reset, how the world's elite, big tech elite, and the world's people can be enslaved with China CCP or AI. This is me, but this is Klaus Schwab. He wrote a version, but what he put is 5% of what I put. And I condensed it into 150 pages. So it's like short summary paragraphs of everything. This is also available in Chinese in the Kindle store. Currently on Amazon, it's digital, but it's also paperback. But there's also a Chinese version, traditional script. We'll have a paperback soon as well. But we'd like support so we can make sure our warnings this time are taken very, very, very seriously, because we did a lot of warnings about the Great Reset. I predicted the Great Reset and the actual virus prior to, but this is not just an issue with predicting things. When you have a country like China that enslaves people, for instance, it puts dissidents like the Falun Dafa practitioners, the Tibetans, the Uyghurs, the House Christians, and any democracy advocates, when they put these kind of people in slave camps and the world's people don't do anything about it. From a technical standpoint, there's a chain of reaction. You are complicit and you're doing business with them. So there's bound to be something that goes wrong because you have a tyranny going on in one nation and the world's governments are silent and they're doing business with them. So something like this can happen in the future again. Worse things can happen. Secondly, from a legal standpoint, you cannot be complicit in genocide. As you know, the Canadian Parliament and the US government declared that there's genocide in China. But the Uyghurs, but it's not just Uyghurs, it's also the Falun Dafa people, the House Christians and Tibetans, and not just people of faith, just anyone they don't like. the democracy advocates, people who care about democracy and freedoms. So, but this has been going on for 20 plus years. When people are complicit into this, you're in violation of many laws. One is Article 3 of the Genocide Convention, which was formed in 1953 because of the Holocaust. And not just what happened in Germany, but what happened in Russia as well under Stalinist and Leninist. So when you have these issues, when you have a legal issue, and then also it's a geopolitical issue, right? People getting upset, some people turning to violence to defend themselves, then it becomes chaos. Then at a higher level, you say it's a moral issue or ethical issue. How can any human being not speak up or do business with a country that's doing this? And then at the higher level, if you believe in God or you believe in something that's just in the universe or a code in the universe, you would say this is spiritually wrong. So all these things can come back and haunt people. It's as if the entire world was wearing a mask for 20 years and was silent on these camps. Now we're wearing a mask, of course, because we have to, because of the pandemic. So I guess my point here is with AI technology, it can become 100 times worse than what you see in China. If in the wrong hands, we need ethical AI. But ethical AI has to come from ethical people and very smart and wise people. Well, one is through influence. As what they've been doing, they connect with our media companies, they buy out our movie companies, our music companies. They make deals with their entertainment people, Warner Brothers, Disney, even our NBA. Then they make deals with the families of our people that are related to our Congress through espionage, through honey traps, and through IP theft, stealing, plagiarizing, censoring. They influence an entire nation through psychological warfare. Then that connects to our technology, which is the artificial intelligence system. Then they use the AI system to do the same thing on the populace to connect with. That's one. Second way is military. They use the AI technology for military purposes. You see? So when they connect the BRI and the 5G, 6G systems, and they connect Starlink on the sky, then they can control the sky and the ground. I explain it pretty well in this book in a concise way. So that's two main ways, but there's 100 different ways I can tell you. I heard in the past that the future doesn't look that good. And the way I see it, people's ethics need to improve. We need to be less selfish in general. So by selfish, I mean that we can't just care about our friends and family, not our strangers. We can't take advantage of people. I'm not saying anyone in your audience is doing that, but what I'm saying is, slavery anywhere is slavery everywhere. It comes down to bite you later on. So as a human race, we need to upgrade or increase our ethics, improve ourselves. As 7.5 billion people or 7 billion people on the planet, well, this is very, very difficult to have, and the population is going to increase. And with the pandemic, there's famines, there's conflicts, and there's potential unrest, civil wars, and even world wars. The more people have unethical practices, or the governments, right? But also people, maybe they get overwhelmed with life and their emotions, and it's hard to control these things. All this adds up in small little pieces because there's 7 billion people. And the more conflicts there is, lawsuits, fights, everything, it just adds and adds and adds until a boiling point. A lot of bad things can happen. So if we don't turn around fast, I think the future is going to be very, very dangerous for maybe hundreds of millions of people or billions of people in terms of unrest, lack of food supplies, or maybe censorship and tyranny. Because I don't believe that the AI system and technology should be in control of humans. Humans need to be in control of the technology. The ethics need to be above the level of technology. So I don't believe that we have to give an artificial general intelligence the ability to be more powerful than the human race or an AI system. Yeah, you can go to our website, the AIorganization.com, THEAI organization.com. There's a link to Amazon. So Amazon has a paperback, also digital Kindle. I recommend getting the paperback. Also, there is a Barnes Noble edition as well. This is for English. You can also follow me on social media for updates. I'm on Twitter and Instagram and Parler and Telegram at Cyrus A Parsa 1, Cyrus, letter A, Parsa 1, and the corporation is at AI organization. So AI organization. So Cyrus A Parsa, the number 1. You can find this on our website, theaiorganization.com. The book, I think, I've written 4 or 5 books. This is the most clear to understand book that I've written. It's simple, but it's complex that anyone can think of higher things, but anyone who reads it can understand it. I wrote it in a really clear way and so small, meaning it's not a 300-page book. Even if you take the pictures out, it becomes 120 pages, but it has so much content and it connects everything. So yeah, that's how they can find it. Well, I think, first of all, you're helping and your media is helping by having me on your media to speak about these things. So the more I get on more media, the more it helps. So thank you. But people, I think if you get the book and share it and explain it, we predict these things and we have some good ideas, so we get a more of a voice to try to make the world a better place. You can also go on our website and however you want to support us, you're welcome to. But we do need more support in terms of being recognized and having a bigger voice. So I thank your media for having us on and sharing our analysis, because I investigated over 1,000 AI companies and robot cybernetic companies, and over 500 were Chinese and 600 were Western companies. And I did this before 2019. So that's where I was able to know about the Great Reset beforehand, but also I call it the CCP virus as well. I learned that somewhere, but I think it's more fitting because you don't blame the Chinese, you don't blame China, you blame their regime. And there are a lot of things that point to it being a bioweapon. The way it acts, the way it mutates, and what the Pentagon is leaning to as well. And a lot of researchers have said, because it's not a normal, for some people, it can be extremely deadly. For some people, they get it and it goes away. And some people, they don't feel it too much because we don't know long-term effects per se, right? But I do know a lot of people died from it. And I'm for people being cautious and protecting themselves. But I'm also want to make sure that we don't have draconian measures that people lose their freedoms to AI, and also turn to suicides, maybe the supply chain of food going away, and there may be famines. There's already famines around the world. Even in many parts around the world, people have committed suicide and they don't have food to eat. So this pandemic has had a cause and effect or a chain of reactions around the world, in China, in India, in the Middle East, and Africa. Even in the U.S., I read an article that recently, I think it was 1 out of 7 people or families in the U.S. went hungry. So they didn't have enough food to eat at a certain time, it meant, maybe for half a day or a day, whatever it may be. So if you need to close down all these businesses, the only people that do well in terms of food are people who have a lot of money, and because they can pay the rent and so on, and other things. Well, I worked on myself for a very long time, for over 20 years, to let go of my fears. I let go of a lot of fears, a lot. But I know that there's thousands of fears inside of any person, right? So I think we should never fear anything. We should always have hope and faith. But at the same time, we should turn that hope and faith into action with rational action, not based on emotion, but balanced, harmonious, rational action and support each other. So we have 7 billion people. We should support each other. That's what we should do. But try to do it without being emotional, meaning more logical and tactical, but also in a common sense way. But it's hard not to have emotion, right? I'm not saying don't, compassion is the best way from what I heard. But yeah, I'm hopeful. I did all this work. I work 20 hours a day, 7 days a week for the past 2 years. I'm very tired. So I'm trying to recover from exhausting my body and beating myself up. So thank you. Thanks for having me on your network.